Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ, and I am bringing you guys my Week 9 battle of the UPC going up against Novahawk, coach of the Chicago Granbulls. Strongly recommend you guys check him out. He has brought a team of Tapu Koko, Mamoswine, Azelf, Skarmory, Volcanion, and Garchomp. I don't remember what it was called for a second. I did put up a team builder for this video. In case you missed it, I am bringing a Yachiberry Tapu Bulu, a kind of fast, sort of bulky Marowak, a Salt Vest Nidoqueen, fast Nidoqueen, Reflect type Latios, a Choice Scarf Zoroark, and a Weakness Policy Celesteela. So this is pretty close to what he brought the last time. The only change is that he did not bring his Drapion. Instead, he brought the Azelf, and that is something that I'm pretty afraid of. It has lots of setup options. It can set up hazards. It can be potentially Choice Scarf. Hard to say exactly what it's going to be. But in any case, I am going to lead just with my Zoroark because it gives me the opportunity to potentially U-turn out on something. And I'm going to disguise it as my Celesteela because my Celesteela matches up pretty well versus 4 of the 6 members of his team. Being the Mamoswine, Azelf, Skarmory, and the Garchomp. So I can potentially switch out... or he might switch out anticipating some move from Celesteela, and then I can just hit it with a U-turn and potentially get some momentum. So we'll see how that turns out for me, and we do see that turn 1 he leads off with the Mamoswine. Now, Mamoswine is a humongous threat to my team, but the way that he's leading off with it suggests that it's probably Focus Sash with Stealth Rock. So, I kind of take a risk here. His main move is to go for Icicle Crash if he thinks that truly that I'm a Celesteela. But the Focus Sash Jolly set does not actually Oko Zoroark, which is kind of hard to believe. So because this thing is such a threat, I want to just take this as an opportunity to get off some chip damage on the Mamoswine, just because I don't have many other opportunities to do that with this team, because it's kind of bulky and relatively slow, which is not really the way to deal with Mamoswine. But it's a good way to deal with things like Tapu Koko and Azelf, so this is definitely a risk, but I am just going to go ahead here and click the Dark Pulse as he actually switches into the Volcanion. So this is kind of what I was hoping would happen when I led up with the Zoroark. Volcanion, like 9 times out of 10, is a nice switch-in for Celesteela. So, he could switch into that, and I got a really nice chunk of damage off on that thing. And, I have a really nice safe switch into my Latios on this Volcanion, so I am going to go ahead and do that, because there's not a whole lot that it can do to me. And he is going to go for Flame Charge, which is really cool. Luckily, there's still nothing that he can really run that's going to hurt my Latios. So I've got an opportunity to just go for a T-Bolt here. T-Bolt does 75% min to a non-invested Volcanion. And because he's a Flame Charge set, I'm inclined to think that he doesn't have much HP investment. So I'm just going to click T-Bolt. As he brings in the Skarmory, I guess he was expecting a Dragon or Psychic move. And I get off a nice 70%, get the Para off, and this Skarmory is going to be going down to the following Thunderbolt. So already getting the Skarmory out of the way, which is quite nice. And he goes back into the Mamoswine. So again, like the situation we were in on turn 1, Mamoswine's a big threat to me. And, Latios is my answer to Volcanion, and it's a decent answer to things like Koko and potentially Azelf, depending upon what set it is. So I don't want this thing to get too weakened, but I know that if he's not Life Orb, that I can actually take him on 1v1 with Reflect type. So I am going to set up this Reflect type here, and we're going to take an Icicle Crash for only 40%, which is pretty nice. So we can get off a Psychic, and assuming we don't get crit, we should survive, and we do survive. Go for a Roost. He's just going to get up his rocks here. Nice play. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into my Celesteela here on the potential Icicle Crash. I don't know if this was necessarily the best play. I probably should have just stuck with my plan of roosting up with Latios. But I guess I figured, Celesteela can deal with the Mamoswine relatively well. And I don't want my Lati getting too weakened. Because, as I mentioned before, I still want it for Volcanion and things like that. Especially if it is a Flame Charge set. As we've seen. But the Icicle Crash does a little bit more than I expected. I don't really know what I was expecting. But in any case, I'm just going to go for a Heavy Slam here, as he unfortunately misses an Icicle Crash. That definitely sucks for him, because it would have, really put my Celesteela in low range. Celesteela is also my switch in for Garchomp, and he could have basically killed me with any move on his Garchomp if he had gotten off that Icicle Crash. So he'd even go for like Dragon Claw, and I would probably die to the combination of Dragon Claw plus Rocks. So definitely unfortunate for him. He's going to preserve his Mamoswine, I guess, as a sack, and go into his Volcanion. I really wish I had gone for Earthquake here. Like, it would have killed it would have killed the Mamoswine all the same. But, I guess I was wondering, like, what else he might go into. Like, maybe he goes into Azelf or something weird. I don't know. Or, Tapu Koko. Like, if he went to Tapu Koko, I could have gone for Earthquake. But Heavy Slam does about as much versus the Koko as Earthquake does. But then it does more damage to Garchomp. So, I don't know. It's sort of a risk versus reward. As played, he's able to go into his Volcanion pretty easily. And I am just going to switch right into my Latios, which is a little low, admittedly. He is going to go for the Steam Eruption, and he'll switch out into his Azelf here as I go for the Roost. Here, a nice play for me would have been to go for another Roost, but I guess I was a little worried about the potential setup options from the Azelf. I probably shouldn't have been, because I still have if he is a setup set, I do have a Scarf Zoroark in the back that can potentially take this thing on. Even if it's Focus Sash, I can go for a U-turn and then let something else get sacked and then kill it off with a Dark Pulse. I don't even think a Colbur Berry Azelf can live the combination of U-turn plus Dark Pulse. So probably another Roost would have been the better play. But he does just go for the U-turn here. And I'm pretty sure I just go for the Thunderbolt as he brings in his Garchomp. So definitely unfortunate for me. He's playing this pretty well. I'm going to go into my Bulu as he doubles out into his Tapu Koko. Now, again, I make kind of a weird play here. I go for the Leech Seed. Because his Skarmory is gone, I really had no reason to do anything other than click Woodhammer, because it'd be killing anything that came in here. But I guess I was, maybe if he was like a Brave Bird set, like I thought going for Leech Seed might be nice because I can get some recovery and then I can click Protect. But if I was really worried about Brave Bird, I should have just gone for Horn Leech, because Horn Leech plus Brave Bird recoil has a good chance of killing. I guess the only problem here is that we're not actually in grassy terrain. I didn't think about that at the time, but that is a little bit of a case to go for the Leech Seed instead of the grass move, but I digress. My play apparently is to go for the Leech Seed as he goes for U-turn. Good to know that he has the U-turn. I'll go for the Leech Seed on this thing, get a little bit of recovery back, and I did EV to outspeed the Volcanion. I already know that it's not Scarf, so I can just kill it off with a Horn Leech. So another big threat down. Now he brings in the Garchomp. I'm like 99% confident that this thing has Poison Jab. I go for the Protect to scout it, just to be 100% sure, but maybe I could have gone into the Celesteela just straight away, but it wouldn't have mattered that much because Celesteela would have died to the follow-up Flamethrower, and you can see that's what he was expecting here. Now I guess I can potentially go for the Roost on this play, but I'm figuring he has a Dragon move that can OHKO me, so I just want to try and get some damage off on this Garchomp because it is looking really scary. I don't really have a way to kill it other than revenging it with Zoroark, so I need some chip, and so I'll just go for the Psychic, and I get a nice 46%. Modest Mega Latias really put in the work this game, whittling down a lot of critical mons. But yeah, now we're here. This is, again, where, it's unfortunate for Novahawk that my Celesteela has a little bit more HP. But I'm trying to figure out exactly... well, actually, no. So, I even tricked myself. This is not a Celesteela that came in. This is my Zoroark. Because the Dark Pulse is going to do a lot of damage to no matter what comes in. And I know that I can outspeed this and outspeed pretty much anything that's on his team. So he's going to switch out and sack off his Mamoswine as I go for Dark Pulse. I can't believe I tricked myself there. That's too funny. But yeah, so he's going to go into the Azelf, and I'm worried that the Azelf is now Jolly or Timid Scarf, the way that he's brought this thing in. So I don't want my Zoroark to stay in on that and potentially take a U-turn or Dazzling Gleam or something like that. So I am just going to switch out into Nidoqueen because I don't think he's going to go for a Psychic move. Psychic type moves versus a Celesteela or Zoroark don't make sense. I think the U-turn is most likely. And so I do go ahead and do that as he U-turns. And he's going to bring in his Garchomp here, which is, again, a really big threat. So I'm going to go right into my Celesteela, my Tapu Bulu. And the reason I do this is not because I want to take a crit Earthquake like I just did. The reason is because I want to set up the terrain for my Nidoqueen or my Marowak potentially to take this Garchomp on. Most likely Nidoqueen, because Nidoqueen does have the Ice Beam that can definitely OHKO the Garchomp here. I could have gone straight into Celesteela on the obvious Earthquake, but again, I really wanted the terrain up, and so we do that here, and I'm anticipating him to go for the Poison Jab anyway. So I'm like, aha, maybe I can get off a little cheeky hit here, but it just goes straight for the Flamethrower. Again, it wouldn't have mattered that much because even if I dodged the Poison Jab, he could just Flamethrower me on the second part of his turn, or the next turn rather. But now we do have the Grassy Terrain up. Even if he's a max attack Adamant, he needs like a top roll to kill my Nidoqueen with the Earthquake. I could have gone into Marowak and like 100% dodge the chance to die from Earthquake, but I wanted to keep Marowak for the Tapu Koko. I guess I could have kept Nidoqueen for Tapu Koko and it would have been fine. But in any case, it still was like practically a 0% chance to kill with the Earthquake now that the Grassy Terrain is up. So I'm going to go back into my Nidoqueen here, as I mentioned. I'm going to click Ice Beam, and funnily enough, I'm actually going to outspeed. So he did this in the first battle as well. He brought a 0-speed Garchomp. And my Nidoqueen is EV to outspeed things like Max Speed Volcanion. So I was definitely going to outspeed a 0-speed Garchomp. So that's quite nice. Nidoqueen was able to land a really clutch kill there. And now he is going to go into his Azelf. And I'm just going to go ahead and sack my Nidoqueen here. Because I don't need it that much for the Tapu Koko. I should be able to handle Tapu Koko with the combination of Bulu plus Marowak. And I don't want to risk going straight into my Zoroark on a predicted Psychic move. Because Zoroark is my win condition versus both the Azelf and the Tapu Koko. So now this thing did go for the Zen Headbutt. I'm going to bring my Zoroark in. But it's disguised as the Tapu Bulu. And he's not going to realize that. I figured that he would switch out, which is why I went for the Sludge Bomb. But we do dodge that Zen Headbutt damage, which is quite nice. He brings in the Koko, and we're able to get up a nice 87% here. Now, I could have just gone for another Sludge Bomb and taken this thing out, but I was a little worried about this Koko also being Scarfed. You know, it seems silly, especially since he already has the Scarf Azelf, which, by the way, based on the previous turn, this turn here, I outsped him, so that means that he's Adamant Scarf rather than Jolly, so I do outspeed, which is pretty nice, because I did EV to outspeed Adamant Azelf. So we'll just, rewatch the last two turns. But yeah, I don't want to risk losing my Zoroark, so I go into my Bulu, no problemo, as he just goes for a U-turn. And he goes back into his Azelf. Now, he could, I'm happy to let my Bulu go down here because then I can bring in my Zoroark, potentially clean up the game, or if he is a Scarf Koko, get knocked out by U-turn probably, or potentially Dazzling Gleam and then go into my Marowak and finish him off. But, so I'm going to stay in here. He's just going to go for a Zen Headbutt, which is probably his best play. And I do actually survive, and I get off a Horn Leech, and I'm able to take him out. And I'm going to get a little bit of grassy terrain recovery. He's going to bring in his Coco. And my Tapu Bulu is going to be able to net the final kill here after he goes for the Thunderbolt. So that is going to be a good game. It's going to be a 3-0 victory in our favor. But we really did benefit from the Mamoswine miss in the mid game, just because it allowed us to play some more mind games with the Celesteela and the Zoroark. The Zoroark really threw him for a loop, which I'm quite happy about. I know that's not why I brought it. I brought it because it was a legitimate offensive threat versus some of his Pokemon. But other Pokemon did really well this game. Latios really shined, I think, even though it was the first Pokemon to go down. It was also the first Pokemon to go down in our first game, but, it's fine. We got critical damage off on the Volcanion, critical damage off on Garchomp and Skarmory and things like that. Blue, I think, ended up coming in with 3 kills. It killed the Tapu Koko, it killed the Azelf, and it killed the Volcanion. So that's pretty sick. And Nidoqueen also getting a nice kill on the Garchomp. And I think Zoroark came in with 2 kills as well. I got a kill on... Ray just got 1 kill. It's hard to keep track. But that's going to put us to 5-4 in the UPC, which is quite nice. Our differential is now +6. And we are definitely occupying the final, wild card spot. Even if Aiden comes up with a win, he's going to need like a good differential in order to overcome us. So yeah, we have 2 weeks left of the regular season in the UPC. It was originally going to be a 13-week league, but now we are doing just 11 weeks. And we have to play the Anastar City Agrons next week, and then the final week we have to go up against Phantom Base and his New York City Cosmogs. He has the Tapu Lele Rain team, which is hilarious. I really don't know how I'm going to deal with that. But hopefully we can do relatively well in each of those 2 matches, and maybe we'll end up with a playoff spot. So that'll do it from me. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you check out the channel for other gaming and Pokemon content. And until the next time, I'll see you guys later.